Business news from the Capital Region. This is Washington Business Report with ABC7 national correspondent Rebecca Cooper.
And thanks for joining us. It's been a busy week for world leaders on the issue of how to recover from the global financial meltdown. As Europe faces a currency crisis and Northern Africa deals with political chaos, closer to home, we saw some encouraging signs of recovery in the Washington region. But in a week when the Dow passed 12,000 for the first time since 2008, U.S. Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner told leaders gathered at the World Economic Forum in Switzerland that the expansion in the U.S. economy will not quickly solve America's unemployment problem. But with profits up, there was optimism in the small Swiss town of Davos this week. Some of the biggest names in the business and political world were busy hobnobbing in Davos, Switzerland this week for the World Economic Forum. And a new report says they're in a pretty good mood. In fact, PricewaterhouseCoopers says 88% of the world's CEOs say they feel confident the global economy will grow, not shrink, in 2011. But they aren't as confident the government will help. A strong majority say they remain worried about fiscal deficits and regulatory policies across the globe. Here in Washington, President Obama used his State of the Union address to reach out to the business community and focus on what the White House has termed winning the future.
At stake is whether new jobs and industries take root in this country or somewhere else.
Saying his administration should get credit for helping break the back of the recession, the president says much more must be done, calling this a Sputnik moment.
We need to out-innovate, out-educate, and out-build the rest of the world.
And there are still plenty of reasons for concern when it comes to growth. The latest housing numbers show home prices on the decline for the 5th straight month. The Washington area did manage to once again defy the overall U.S. trend, up 3.5% from the year prior. But if the national numbers go below the previous low set in April 2009, then we will officially hit the mark many experts and consumers dread, a double-dip recession, at least for the housing market, which is always a key indicator for the overall economy. Well, just as analysts worried about that dreaded double dip, new GDP numbers came out Friday showing the U.S. economy grew a steady 3.2% in the fourth quarter. That's up from 2.6% in the third quarter. One analyst saying that number should, quote, drive a stake through the heart of anyone who still thought the economy was headed for a double-dip recession. But does it? Joining us to talk about where the economy is now, one man who is known for speaking his mind, Peter Morici, professor at the Smith School of Business at the University of Maryland and former chief economist at the International Trade Commission. Dr. Morici, a pleasure to have you on Washington Business Report.
Nice to be with you.
So you and I talked earlier this week, and you immediately poo-pooed the Case-Shiller home prices, saying those are old numbers, back in November, look to the future. What numbers do matter? What are you looking at?
Well, when it comes to housing, it's employment. Are people getting jobs and their wages going up? The answer is some people are getting jobs, but not nearly enough. Jobless claims are up again to recession levels, 450,000 last week. Wages aren't moving, so don't look for the housing prices to move up anytime soon. They'll likely continue declining to the middle of the year.
We've got a great panel coming up later in the show to talk more about real estate. So I want to pivot now. It's a popular word in Washington. Everyone's pivoting. So let's pivot to the President's State of the Union, because you wrote a column that was widely distributed and run this week in several major newspapers, saying that you thought the president and the Republicans completely missed the mark when it came to the economy this week.
Well, it's now clear that stimulus spending is not enough. 3% growth won't bring unemployment down, and the president merely repackaged the stimulus proposals as investments in transportation, education, R&D, high-speed rail, the same old stuff. The Republicans ducked the big issues as well. Does anybody really think that tax cuts and deregulation is going to solve the problem of Wall Street?
Okay, well, so let me take you on. Yes, a lot of people do think that tax cuts can stimulate the economy. Even the Obama administration has embraced tax cuts for certain segments of the economy. Why not?
Well, the Obama administration right now will embrace just about anything that makes him look pro-private sector or will boost his sad rankings in the polls. It managed to do that. What really needs to be done is to create more demand for what Americans make and provide enough capital for small businesses to expand. That means solving the trade deficit with China. Every time a dollar goes abroad to buy a coffee maker and it doesn't come back here to buy an American product, there's not enough demand for what Americans make. Likewise, the oil deficit. Banks, The president solved with TARP the problems of the big banks in New York, but those smaller banks out in the country still don't have enough money to loan to small businesses.
You also said that they both chickened out when it came to getting to the heart of the problem with the economy, entitlement spending.
Well, entitlements is healthcare, healthcare, healthcare. We spend 18% of GDP on healthcare. The Germans spend 12%. Why? We pay 50% more for stuff, whether it's drugs, hospital care, or what have you. The president's program merely subsidized that system by increasing access. And Congressman Ryan's proposal is really a repackaging of Obamacare. Look real closely. Instead of compelling you to buy insurance, it subsidizes you to buy insurance. It's Tweedledee and Tweedledum, MasterCard and Visa.
But come on, Dr. Morici, because everyone says if you get more people into the insurance pool, it will help bring some of those costs down. You don't buy that at all?
Not at all. It won't bring increasing demand for oranges generally drives the price of oranges up. Giving people more money to see the doctor will drive up the price of seeing a doctor if you don't have more doctors. And there's nothing
come on,
in
that
there.
completely overlooks the whole idea that people won't be going to the emergency room as much if they're going to their doctors more, and some of the other things that economists say truly will benefit.
Economists say, please don't generalize that way. I think if you had Robert Reich on here and folks from the left who wanted national care, that would be the case. Most economists don't believe there's enough savings that way. By the way, those guys think that, paying $200,000 a year for malpractice insurance is negligible and torts reform won't help at all. Ask an OBGYN guy about that.
While I'm generalizing, we've got to wrap, but I do want to have one quick word from you. The Financial Crisis Inquiry Commission, 567 pages. I think it's a good read so far from what I've seen. They look at things, they blame regulators, they blame Washington, they blame Wall Street. You say old news.
You got it. Blame, blame, blame. Basically, you have six Democrats who couldn't bring the Republicans along in blaming the last administration for all of the problems of the universe. The fact is, financial services were deregulated by Bill Clinton, and a lot of what happened was a consequence of that deregulation.
I say if you don't go back and look at least some of the problems, you'll never fix them for the future. So
absolutely.
Worth a read. Okay, Peter Morici, a delight to have you on. We hope to have you on many times in the future. Thanks so much. Well, up next, there's no place like Washington to be a homeowner, and we've got new numbers to back that up. And a look ahead to this region's real estate market in 2011. Stay with us.
Washington Business Report is brought to you by GE, Imagination at Work.
Before he changed the world,
tear down this wall,
or led a nation,
I, Ronald Reagan, do solemnly swear,
or governed a state,
you and I have a rendezvous with destiny.
he inspired our company with his optimism, his belief in innovation, and his entrepreneurial spirit.
For General Electric, here is Ronald Reagan.
Rocking out to the Big Hot Pastrami. Big Hot Pastrami. Don't dare call it a cover band unless you're talking about covering freshly baked bread with layer upon layer of flavor-packed pastrami. This sub lays down power chords of tastosity with pickles, mean licks of mustard, and riffs of melty, bubbly cheese. Catch them before the fresh toasted tour leaves town. Subway Big Hot Pastrami. Crank up the flavor at Subway.
It was early in the morning and I was on my way to work and we were merging onto a highway and was struck from behind by another vehicle. When I got to work, I started to feel really bad and I was trying to figure out what could I do or what do I need to do. And at that moment, I saw a Greenberg and Betterman commercial. So I decided to give them a call. I got justice, and I got justice the way I deserved it. It was like eating the best piece of cake I could have ever eaten in the world.
We are mothers and daughters and sisters and husbands and best friends. And for 2 days and 39 miles, we are one in our commitment to fighting breast cancer. This is Reese Witherspoon. Join me in the fight against breast cancer. Register today for the Avon Walk for Breast Cancer and help us take one step closer to the cure.
Join us in D.C. April 30th and May 1st. Register today and get in it to end it.
If you need a mattress, why go to a furniture store? Go to the professionals. Sleepy's, the mattress professionals.
And welcome back. The misery that's made headlines for the real estate sector for the past few years has been hard to stomach. But this week, those of us in the Washington area saw some good news. Homes in the Washington market went up last year, while prices in other parts of the country were still going down. We have two experts in the real estate sector with us today. Dr. David Crow is the chief economist and senior vice president at the National Association of Home Builders. He made real estate news this week with his forecast. Also joining us, Donna Evers, owner and founder of Evers & Company Real Estate, the largest female-owned and run residential real estate firm in the Washington area. Welcome both.
Thank you.
Dr. Crow, let's get right to it. You told a group gathered in Orlando this week that you think there are some factors that point to signs of growth this year. What are they?
Well, we see consumers finally coming out of their box, essentially, buying more substantial goods like automobiles and furniture. That's a good indication that they're finally getting their feet on the ground and feeling more comfortable. They're also repairing their credit and saving so that they've caught up at least some of the way with the loss in equity in the stock market and their homes. And so essentially, we also have a very large pent-up demand. People have not been out buying houses or out becoming renters. They've stayed home with mom and dad. And that's finally beginning to burst forward. Prices seem to have bottomed. We have very good mortgage rates. And so there seems to be a lot of the right signs out there for the consumer to finally come back.
So the number that everyone looks at is single-family home construction. You had some predictions for this year. What do you expect those numbers to be?
I think that we'll get about a 20% increase in single-family production in 2011. 20% sounds pretty large, but we're coming off of a very bad year. 2011 was actually the second worst year since World War II.
Still, some call your numbers optimistic. You do make some assumptions in that forecast about where unemployment is headed and job growth. What are you looking at? What do you estimate?
I'm looking at some pretty substantial job growth. We have to have that to get the consumer back in the market. If they're not comfortable that their job is going to remain in place, they're not going to buy a house.
So as an economist, what are you basing that on? What gives you that optimism about job growth?
Well, there's things like even Friday's report on GDP, very solid consumer boosts, indicating that this pent-up, this waiting has finally begun to wane and people will get back in the marketplace.
So Donna, let's take a look at the Washington market. First, give us the 2010 overview. What kind of a year was it?
Well, it was a strange year because we had two distinct halves to it. The first half of the year was way up from the previous year because of our own little housing subsidy, which was the first-time homebuyers tax credit. So it was an amazing average of 23% up every month over the previous year. The second half of the year was a very different story. From July on, it was minus 9% a month. So we ended up the year with plus 7% of increase in dollar volume of sales. But all year long, prices were up. And we are certainly one of the few areas in the country that can say that. So
in fact, let's take a look at that.
Year.
We have those exact numbers. Nationwide, we saw home prices going down 1.6% between November of 2009 and November of 2010. In the Washington market, they went up 3.5%.
Yes.
Where exactly are you seeing some of the growth? We saw places like Prince William County take the biggest hits. We saw places like Arlington County fare a little bit better because of job security from the federal government and whatnot.
Really what happened was, Fairfax County and parts of Virginia went down first. So the ones who went down first came back first also. So we saw their, price increases first. Now we're seeing it really all over the area. And so that's really
Is there any county you'd still call a dog and say, don't buy, don't sell?
I think Prince George's is still having a tough time, and I think that that might go on for a while. But in the close-in market, particularly, you're seeing a big success story compared to the rest of the country.
And we see lots of businesses ready to go into Prince George's County, so maybe some signs of hope for them as well in the coming year. Dr. Crow, tell us what you're looking at in terms of mortgage rates. They're coming back up a little bit.
They've ticked up a little bit. And I expect them to gradually move up as the overall economy improves and more demand upon capital occurs. But I still, even by the end of next year, I still don't have them above 6.5.
Just last, Donna, quickly, commercial real estate, you think there's signs for hope for there?
Yes, I mean, commercial real estate is looking up too. We had some couple of really amazing sales toward the end of this last year, and that's spotty, but that starts to fill in after a while. And we now have the most expensive leasing market. We've surpassed New York City in this area. So that's pretty amazing.
So good news in terms of the money coming in, not good news if you've got to lease a building. Okay, Donna Evers, David Crow, thanks so much. Well, we have some fourth quarter profit figures now from some of those big aerospace players in our region. Boeing reported net income of $1.16 billion. That's down about 8% compared to the fourth quarter of 2009. Falls Church-based General Dynamics reported a 19% jump in its fourth quarter earnings due to strong sales of ships, business jets, and vehicles. And from its headquarters in Bethesda, Lockheed Martin reporting a 19% increase in fourth quarter profits. And there's also news on the Air Force's aerial tanker contract. It's just weeks before the big decision over whether to award the $35 billion contract to Chicago-based Boeing or give it to EADS, the European Aeronautic Defense and Space Company, parent company of Airbus. Well, now senators from both parties are blasting the Air Force, calling the 10-year-long decision process a fiasco. Senator Maria Cantwell of Washington State is demanding a Pentagon investigation about data leaked that she says gave EADS an unfair advantage over Boeing. In November, the Air Force, they accidentally released to each company a computer disk containing their competitor's score. Now, Boeing says they never opened the disk, but EADS admits that at least one of its employees did and looked at Boeing's information. Well, coming up next, our reporter roundtable and a book anyone interested in who's making money in Washington waits for every year, The Book of Lists. Stay with us.
Living it big? Then load it big with Checkers Unbeliever Burgers. Our new smoky bacon burger, mushroom Swiss or bacon cheddar crisp. 2 for an unbelievable $3. That's feastin'. Checkers, feast on.
Could switching to Geico really save you 15% or more on car insurance? Was Abe Lincoln honest?
Does this dress make my backside look big?
Perhaps it will.
Could switching to Geico really save you 15% or more on car insurance? Is having a snowball fight with pitching great Randy Johnson a bad idea?
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe this was a bad idea.
There's no place like Hollywood. This is where you're in the spotlight. You're the star. A place where the action never stops and the night is always young. Enjoy all your favorite table games like blackjack, craps, and roulette. Or hit it big in our brand new 27-table poker room. Only at Hollywood Casino. The name says it all.
I was deciding what to do with my city thank you points when it happened again. First it was the mailbox, then my squirrel, and now this. So I used my points to make a donation to get the park down the street built. Yeah! When it finally opened, I also used my points for car repair.
Use City Thank You points for almost anything and earn them fast with the new City Thank You Preferred Card. What's your story? City can help you write it.
Great news, Culpeper. America's Best is now open.
They have the best prices on contacts and glasses.
Now you can get 2 pairs of glasses for $69.95 with a free eye exam.
You're gonna love it.
Get 2 pairs of glasses for $69.95 with a free eye exam every day. Plus AccuView 2 and SoftMed contacts as low as $12.49 a box. Call 1-800-2-PAIR and schedule an appointment at your new America's Best today.
America's Best. The best prices in sight.
Living it big? Then load it big with Checkers Unbeliever Burgers. Our new smoky bacon burger, mushroom Swiss or bacon cheddar crisp. 2 for an unbelievable $3. That's feastin'. Checkers, feast on.
And welcome back for our Reporters Roundtable. It's a week where we learned who makes the most money in Washington, and a week where President Obama promised to help companies make more if they invest in what he calls winning the future. Here to talk about it all, Doug Fruehling, editor of the Washington Business Journal, and James Hohmann, reporter for Politico. Gentlemen, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having us.
So thanks so much for you coming, because it's a week that everyone looks forward to, Doug. The Book of Lists, we all pour through it. Lots and lots of lists. I've told you before, I like the fact that you even include things like the most philanthropic companies. But what people really want to know right now, where the jobs are. So let's...
Who's hiring?
Exactly.
Who's making money?
So let's look at that. One of the ones that I picked out to look at, let's look at the top 3 fastest growing companies. Tell us the top 3.
The top 3, number 1 is a company out in Virginia called Agilex Technologies, and they are trying to bring Apple technology to the federal government.
They're in
iPads
Chantilly.
and iPhones, yes.
Okay.
And
number 2, Human Genome
Human Genome Sciences, they have an anthrax drug that they're selling to the federal government. And 3 is NetWitness Corporation. They are also a Virginia company that is in the hot field of cybersecurity.
Always a good place to go. So let's take a look at the top 3 publicly traded companies. Number 1 is the same company that is on the top of the philanthropic list, so kudos to them. But more importantly, in terms of who's hiring, Lockheed Martin, number 1 publicly traded company.
No surprise here when you look at the top 3 and you look at the Washington area. You have 3 major government contractors: defense, IT, computer sciences.
So Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, and computer giant CSC, but in defense field. Okay, so let's get to it. Everyone wants to know who's making money off of this market. The highest paid CEOs, number 1, Robert Stevens from Lockheed Martin. He pulled in $23 million in total compensation.
Which, believe it or not, is actually less than he did the year before. So it was a tough year for him.
My heart bleeds for him. Martine Rothblatt of United Therapeutics, $17.5 million. And just behind Alan Wise, Coventry Healthcare, $17.4 million.
Everyone was down pretty much this year across the board because of lower revenues and lower bonuses.
I hate it when those millionaires have to take a hit, but it does indicate that there's some growth to be had and that time for a comeback. Well, James, let's bring in you to talk about a little bit more the State of the Union, because a lot of companies in the Washington region are looking for what the president's really going to deliver. You talked to some Republicans who said the same thing.
Absolutely, Rebecca. There is this real tension right now between the Republicans who want to cut the size of government to grow the economy and President Obama, who argued in his State of the Union on Tuesday that the way to move forward is to invest. That even though there's all these calls to make cuts and he wants to free some of that discretionary spending, he wants to make huge investments that could really mean a lot of money for local businesses, which he thinks is the key to our economic prosperity.
Now, we all know that the real proof isn't in the State of the Union. Remember switchblade grass and President Bush? A lot of things get promised that never really happen. The budget is coming out soon, and that's where we'll really see what he plans to do. What do you anticipate in terms of Republicans say to you they want to see things like cutting the spending and actual tax breaks?
Absolutely. Republicans came in promising that they would cut $100 billion this fiscal year from federal spending. They've already discovered that it's way harder to do that than they imagined, partly because we're already into the fiscal year. The issue is that even with what Obama was talking about, where he wants to make cuts, he acknowledged in his State of the Union that he only has 12% of the total budget on the table. So what was actually striking about the speech is that he didn't put defense or entitlements on the chopping block at all, and in a lot of ways was calling for more spending. He didn't call it another stimulus, but essentially that's what he was proposing, and that's how Republicans see it.
Well, now, Doug, he has indicated that there's going to be cuts in defense spending, and
$78 billion over 5 years.
Secretary Gates has said the same thing. We saw Boeing already take a hit in the fourth quarter. Part of that was they haven't delivered on the Dreamliner, but part of that was they're seeing some cancellations from defense cuts.
Right, and Congress hasn't funded even last fiscal year yet, so they're already seeing some lower earnings, and they're already trying to diversify. All the government contractors are realizing that they can't rely on the government over the next couple of years.
Diversify. Okay, guys, thanks so much. Well, meantime, in other news, here's an item from the telecommunications sector. The FCC has selected 3 local companies to be among the 9 that will give advice on preventing interference from a new sort of wireless device. ComSearch of Ashburn, Keybridge Global from McLean, and Newstar in Sterling will all help the FCC allocate unused television frequencies for use by the wireless devices. And if you're looking for a job, you're in a good location, according to the employment website Monster.com. Monster says Washington is the top market in the country for job seekers. The company compared the number of available jobs per job seeker. Monster says some of the hottest jobs in our area are computer systems analysts and web developers. In second place, San Francisco, Boston is third, and Baltimore in fourth place on Monster's list. And finally, one last note we thought you should be aware of. Taco Bell bought 4 full-page ads this week in the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and USA Today to fight back against a class action lawsuit asking where's the meat in Taco Bell's claim of all beef filling. The suit claims that instead you're biting into a meat mixture filled with all kinds of binders. We just thought you should know. Well, up next, our number of the week. It just might make you do a little polishing on your resume. Stay with us.
Washington Business Report is brought to you by GE. Imagination at work.
Before he changed the world,
Tear down this wall.
or led a nation,
I, Ronald Reagan, do solemnly swear.
or governed a state,
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny.
he inspired our company with his optimism, his belief in innovation, and his entrepreneurial spirit.
For General Electric, here is Ronald Reagan.
If you made bunny ears, you did it right.
Join Planet Fitness for only $10 down and $10 a month now through February 1st.
Nominate a super teacher. Winners receive cash prizes, school supplies, and one will even win a cruise. To nominate your super teacher, go to VALottery.com. Deadline February 14th.
Attorneys at Greenberg and Betterman were able to decipher. I had got a medical file that's about that thick, and they were able to, put the pertinent information to the front and present my case to Social Security administrative law judge, and they finally granted my Social Security disability application after being turned down twice the previous 2 years.
Rocking out to the Big Hot Pastrami. Big Hot Pastrami. Don't dare call it a cover band unless you're talking about covering freshly baked bread with layer upon layer of flavor-packed pastrami. This sub lays down power chords of tastosity with pickles, mean licks of mustard, and riffs of melty, bubbly cheese. Catch them before the fresh toasted tour leaves town. Subway Big Hot Pastrami. Crank up the flavor at Subway.
Just go ahead and fill this out, and we'll get you started.
Sounds great. Bang, bang. Do I need to put my email address in here?
Join Planet Fitness for only $10 down and $10 a month now through February 1st.
And welcome back. One last item of business, our number of the week, 200,000. And once again, we're talking dollars. According to the Washington Business Journal, that's the average pay of the 300 workers who will staff Northrop Grumman's new corporate headquarters in Fairfax County. 200,000 is more than twice Fairfax County's already high average annual income. But the Journal cautions that the figure is likely skewed by the compensation for CEO Wes Bush. Well, that's all for us this week. We hope you join us again next week on Washington Business Report. I'm Rebecca Cooper.
Every day, Dominion lineman Randy Harless delivers reliable power throughout Virginia. But when the weather threatens, it can get cold and dark fast. That's why we begin preparing long before the storm arrives, so linemen like Randy, as well as hundreds of others working to restore service, can do what they do best: get the power back on quickly and safely. This job isn't for everyone, but most of the linemen who do it can't imagine doing anything else. Dominion, what we do every day powers your every day.
The cold winter can take a big bite out of your wallet, but you can save money by saving energy. Cut your utility bills with these simple tips. Save up to $180 over the next year by installing and properly setting a programmable thermostat. And save about $35 a year by replacing 10 incandescent light bulbs with Energy Star compact fluorescents. They last much longer, so you'll keep saving into the future. Also, be sure to replace dirty air filters to get the biggest bang for your utility buck. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov.
The deeper you go, the more good things you learn about oil and natural gas, an industry that supports 9.2 million American jobs, with 20% new jobs in natural gas alone since 2006. And from the energy and manufacturing plants to the fertilizer on the farm to the building blocks for tomorrow's medicines, we're fueling all kinds of jobs. So the next time we discover more oil and natural gas together underground, think of all the good that means above ground. Log on to learn more.
I don't wait for anything. And not because I'm a huge celebrity, which I totally am, but because I have Xfinity. I can watch my favorite shows and movies anywhere I want.
Xfinity delivers the fastest internet to more homes than anyone. Stream, download, and surf in a flash. Get started with Xfinity Internet for $19.99 a month for 6 months. Call 1-800-XFINITY today.
There was guacamole here a minute ago.